Welcome into this Tuesday edition of Big Ten Today, presented by Gatorade. I'm Anthony Herron, Jake Butt here with me. You should have heard us before the show, singing some great tunes. We'll see what happens over the course of the next hour. We may get in a song or two, but we've got to get into the NFL draft, spring games that'll be on the network as well. And as mentioned, we have WNBA news, some transfer portal happening in women's college basketball. We're going to jam-pack a lot into this show. And Jake, it struck me recently, just April as a month, the way all these sports converge, it does still keep us busy in the football offseason.
It certainly does. And the NFL draft's always exciting. Spring games, you take everything with a grain of salt, but it's football, right? But you know who's going to be singing this week?
Who's that?
Mendoza's family, all the Buckeyes family, Makai Lemon's family. There's a lot of Big Ten prospects, and what a special moment for their families. It's just that first step for them to achieve their ultimate dream, get a foot in the door at the NFL. A lot of these guys are the best players on their team, but it's a different story at the next level. But Big Ten loaded with high-level prospects.
A different story does bring us to today's big story, and it is about the fact that the draft is just 2 days away, as Jake referenced. And as we look at the Fox Sports draft analyst Rob Rang's big board, you can see the Big Ten is expected to be well represented, especially at the top. Rob has Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese of Ohio State as his top players on the board. And presumptive number 1 overall pick, Fernando Mendoza at number 4. Total of 14 Big Ten players in his top 50. So when you think about the way that the entire top of the draft board has so many Buckeyes in it, you understand why Ohio State was so good this past season, Jake. The players who were expected to go high, amongst those guys, who maybe stands out as the one who you think amongst the Buckeyes will have the most immediate impact?
I think Caleb Downs, in my opinion, he's the best player in the draft. I agree with that board. I think a lot of people, in my opinion, the best 2 players are Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love. I think Arvell Reese is an outstanding prospect, but he's still a bit raw. Was a linebacker that they moved to the edge. He's got Micah Parsons potential, but Caleb Downs looked like an NFL prospect as a true freshman all the way back at Alabama. And what I'm really curious about is the draft. We have to acknowledge positional value, and safeties is a position that's probably seen their value shrunk over the years. But it ebbs and flows, and what we saw last year with the Seahawks and that Mike McDonald defense, a lot of NFL teams are trying to defend the run from split safety coverage. As a safety, you need to be instinctual, intelligent. You need to have great closing speed and playmaking ability. That's Caleb Downs, and we saw him as kind of the ultimate Matt Patricia chess speech. Single high safety, 2 high safety. He played linebacker. He played defensive end. They lined him up over the center. He's a high IQ player. And the other thing is, and this is true for a lot of players, but Caleb Downs especially is an outstanding leader. Like, he's going to come in and immediately make an emotional impact on that defense, be able to capture that respect in the locker room right away.
I love the point you made about just being in the Matt Patricia scheme, because NFL talent evaluators, they've had an opportunity to watch these Buckeyes play within an NFL defense that they had to learn in their first season. Yeah. Matt Patricia came in, and in 1 year, Caleb Downs knew exactly what he needed to do in a wide variety of roles. So did Sonny Styles. And especially for any of the 11 players on a defense in the National Football League, your off-ball linebackers have to know what everyone is doing on defense. How big a benefit is that for Styles?
It's huge, and that's probably the big difference between college and the NFL is, if you're at Ohio State, frankly, you can line up and play cover 2, and you're going to win 10 games. You're just better than everybody. But in the NFL, the talent gap is so much more condensed that you have to be able to disguise coverages, blitz packages. From one pre-snap shell, you have to play 10 different defenses, which means you need to be locked in, and especially as a linebacker, you have to communicate that to the defensive line and the secondary behind you. I think the interesting thing about Sonny Styles, about Arvell Reese, even Kaden McDonald, a guy that really broke out this year, is you're catching these guys while they're ascending. They're all first-round picks, so they're proven. But Sonny Styles, we talked about, he comes in as a safety, had some tackling issues in 2024, cleans him up. What a dominant tackler this past season. Kaden McDonald really splashed, replacing the 2 Buckeyes the year prior that went to the NFL. Arvell Reese, we had heard whispers, breaks out immediately against Texas. So those three prospects will be selected in the first round, and we're all excited about them, but there's still a ton of room to grow for all of them.
And with a guy like Kaden McDonald, who I think will come off the board late in round number 1, he's a guy 3 years removed from high school, just like Caleb Downs. There's guys who, to your point, are still ascending at this point in their career. And I think that Kaden McDonald has more juice to his game than a lot of folks realize. Yes, he can eat up multiple blocks, but he's not just this immobile interior defensive lineman. He can make plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And I think especially those first handful of years of his career, he'll be a guy who, you're not going to get double-digit sacks from him most likely, but for the NFL, for what you have to do as a run defender, what you have to be able to do as a playmaker, I do think McDonald is going to be a guy, to your point, who's going to be able to step into a role and really have a key role for a number of defenses. Let's get to our big stat. And when you look at the big stat, it's presented by Gatorade. The last time the Big Ten had the first overall pick was a Michigan man himself, another Jake Long in 2008. Fernando Mendoza projected to be the first pick off the board on Thursday, giving Indiana their first ever top overall pick in the Common Draft era. Big Ten is second, and the Big Ten just its second quarterback selected first overall. Last time that happened was with Jeff George. And when you look at Mendoza, we've known for months at this point, Jake, that he's expected to be the top pick here. What have you seen? Anything in the months that we've experienced here lately that have shown some of the maturity and some of the way that he'll be able to transition to that level, even beyond what he does on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. And usually what happens this time of year is we start to put a ton of value in what a guy looks like throwing to stagnant receivers in shorts with no defense. I mean, we've seen that Zach Wilson, boy, could he throw a 60-yard post route in controlled conditions. Everybody looks good at the pro day in the combine. But Mendoza, I think his most underrated trait is there's a self-awareness. He understands, hey, he's got some strength to his game, but there are certain areas of his game that he knows he needs to work on to improve, to become the player that he knows he's capable of being. I think a great example of this is he was talking to Louis Riddick at his pro day, and he said, look, I operated from shotgun a ton in college at Indiana. In the NFL, that's not going to be the case. Most of the time, you're going to be under center, especially in a Kubiak system. I played for Kubiak in Denver, so I know this all too well. Mendoza said the majority of his time has been spent working under center, getting his foot. It's a completely different footwork when you're looking at under center versus shotgun. That just shows to me a self-awareness, a willingness to improve, and it allows me to project that. I know they brought in Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a guarantee that Kirk Cousins starts and Mendoza sits. I think usually when you look at rookies, why they sit is the game moves really fast. It's a big playbook. They're not able to understand it right away. And not to mention the transition from gun to under center and the complexity of defenses. Mendoza, he's had this playbook because he knows he's going to go since the national championship game. Yeah. But he also knows what he needs to work on. So he's not going to walk into OTAs, and that's when Kubiak says, hey, we got to get your drops better under center. He's going to come into OTAs already having repped that, which will only benefit him. I honestly think it's more likely that Mendoza's the starter week one than it is Kirk Cousins.
And it'll be a delicate balance for the Raiders because they did guarantee Kirk Cousins a lot of money, but we saw how that went in Atlanta with Michael Penix Jr. Guaranteeing a veteran a lot of money doesn't always mean that they'll just be presumed as the starter over the talented rookie. So those two individuals, I love your observation about Mendoza still having a chance at the starting job. In modern football, we tend to assume that the rookie, especially the number one pick, will be the guy who sort of just gets forced into that. We don't necessarily know that that'll be the case with the Raiders. A lot of players at wide receiver, though, coming out of the Big Ten, it does feel like they'll have that early opportunity to step onto the field. And whether we're talking Mekhi Lemon, Omar Cooper Jr., who, of course, had some of the biggest and most fantastic grabs for Mendoza this past season with Indiana, Denzel Boston, a lot of players coming out of the Big Ten at wideout. It feels like even more than we're historically accustomed to.
Yeah, that's a sign. We mentioned just the quantity of players that is going to be selected in the first round in the draft as a whole. But you have to look at the positions to show just a changing and adapting Big Ten. Like the Big Ten back when we played, it was linemen, offensive and defensive linemen. Now you're seeing the skill positions. Mendoza, a quarterback selected number one overall. I love this grouping of Big Ten wide receivers. And to me, Carnell Tate is the clear best wide receiver in this draft.
Okay.
It's true for all of these guys, but one of the biggest difference between college and the NFL is you have to be able to catch in tighter windows, contested catches. You're being thrown into in tighter windows. The defensive backs are more physical. The coverages are more mature. How often do we see Carnell Tate in a gotta-have-it situation go up and make an unbelievable catch? He's great with his late hands, and he's got that Buckeye lineage where it's like, well, plug and place, another Ohio State player is going to be great. But Mekhi Lemon has that too. He's a guy that plays much bigger than his size. He's kind of like a pit bull for a wide receiver, just a real strong wide receiver, extremely competitive. Some people, I remember he goes to his pro day and we're dissecting his 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
I don't care about a 40-yard dash. Turn on the film, and I think the best compliment you could say for Mekhi Lemon is that guy is a football player. He'll be a stud at the next level.
So when you compare and contrast those two, because there are a number of folks who believe Mekhi Lemon is the top receiver. Now, whether you want to talk about the personality traits and some of the other stuff that folks might be micro-analyzing with Lemon, doesn't feel like that should be as important with a wideout, but is there one particular edge you give Tate over Lemon?
Well, I would say they have a different play style. Like, I wouldn't call Carnell Tate a pit bull. I'd say Mekhi Lemon, he's kind of like a running back in a sense with the way, especially when he has the ball in his hands and his physicality and strength, whereas Carnell Tate is almost like a ballet dancer. He's got great fluid feet,
really
change of direction, excellent feel. But both of these guys have both of these elements. They're complete receivers. And then Omar Cooper is another one. I mean, my goodness. I called the Wisconsin game, and Shanahan told us, hey, I know everybody's talking about Surratt. We think Omar Cooper can be a first-rounder. He's outstanding after the catch, so it's good to see more Hoosiers get selected in the first round.
And we will continue to talk about the Hoosiers, not only because their spring game is coming up this weekend. There will be more NFL draft conversation on the way in today's show.